This is the new ProArt P16 2025 from ASUS, and from the very first glance you can't possibly mistake this laptop for anything other than what it is. A true portable workstation. It's sober, simple, elegant, with an exceptional screen, enough power and plenty of tweaks to make your work easier. Seen from a distance, the ProArt P16 looks like a very modest laptop with a pleasant design that can fit into any setup. The matte black tones, or nano black as ASUS calls them, emphasize this aesthetic of the quiet kid you can count on to quietly do his homework, adopted since previous versions. The construction is solid with a unibody aluminum chassis, and the matte and hydrophobic nano black finish is meant to minimize both scratches and smudges. In practice, however, we notice it picks up some fingerprints and grease from your hands, but it's easy to clean. If you get the impression that you're looking at a fragile laptop, considering it's only 1.7 centimeters thick, at its thickest point, the ProArt P16 has been rigorously tested and passed resistant tests for shock, vibration, high altitude operation, low and high temperatures, and wasn't spared in those for dust or high humidity either. All these tests are part of the MIL STD 810H military suit and are meant to reassure even the clumsiest users. It must be emphasized from the start that the ProArt P16 is not a model intended for gaming, even if you look at the specs and shout, but hey, it has an RTX 5070. If you look at it overall, you'll immediately realize that the P16 is a tool for content creators or photo/video editors who work on the go. A first clue that you're dealing with a content creation laptop is the connectivity. The P16 comes with two USB-Cs, one 3.2 and one 4.0, capable of reaching speeds up to 40 gigabits per second, two USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 ports, HDMI 2.1, combo audio jack, and the holy SD Express 7.0 card reader that can reach almost 1 gigabyte per second transfer speed. The included screen is a gorgeous touch OLED called Lumina OLED in 16:10 format at 4K resolution, 60 Hz refresh rate, and the typical OLED response time of just 0.2 milliseconds, all protected by Corning Gorilla Glass, a rarity among laptop screens. To all that is added support for the Dolby Vision HDR standard, and you have the recipe for an excellent display, not just for work, but also for multimedia content consumption. However, you should avoid direct sunlight because the finish is glossy and the screen will fill with reflections. The color accuracy, an essential attribute in photo and video editing, is also at high standards with subunitary delta E, and the DCI-P3 color spectrum is fully covered. All the OLED panel protections present on other ASUS models are also found here, so you can rest assured this beautiful screen will last you for a long time. Almost forgot, for those more talented in drawing, the screen is also compatible with a stylus with pressure sensitivity up to 4096 levels. I won't dwell too much on the processor because I tested the previous P16 model and it was based on the same AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370, an excellent processor in terms of productivity. Instead, I'd focus more on the new RTX 5070 laptop GPU, the first of its kind to cross our threshold. Pushed in 3D Mark, it scored respectably 3250 points in Speedway, 2961 in Steel Nomad, 16,000 in Firestrike Extreme, and 8500 in Port Royal. We also quickly ran it through Procyon, where the P16 scored 685 points in the AI computer vision test on the GPU, meaning on the RTX 5070, and 120 on the Ryzen AI 9 CPU. All this performance is kept under control by a complex cooling system, even though the laptop is thin. For fast and efficient heat dissipation from the processor, a solution based on liquid metal developed by Thermal Grizzly was used. This can reduce the processor temperature by up to 10 degrees Celsius compared to standard thermal paste. At full load, the three fans can get noisy, but they're within our expectations. After all, we are cooling a fairly powerful dedicated GPU. Another necessity, at least when it comes to video editing, is storage space, so we're glad that the version we received for testing has 2 terabytes of fast M2 storage. Of course, there are even more equipped versions with up to 4 terabytes of storage, split between the 2 internal slots. Moving on, all 6 speakers built into the ProArt P16 chassis are Harman Kardon certified, and they produce one of the best sound stages I've ever heard on a laptop. I was surprised by the complexity of the sound in the most layered tracks, as well as the frequency separation, an area where most laptop speakers usually struggle. In short, you get a fine but clear bass that doesn't overpower the mids, and you can easily distinguish high frequencies, voices and instruments. The maximum volume is more than sufficient and the audio quality doesn't suffer. If you want more, you also have a volume booster available in the My ASUS app. And since we're talking about software, I can't help but pull ASUS by the sleeve again. We're once again faced with 50 apps that do almost the same thing. A concrete example is the ProArt Creator Hub, where you can manually configure system resource allocation, but the same performance mode menu also exists in My ASUS. Why couldn't everything just be done from there? But let's get back. The keyboard of the ProArt P16 is the same as in past years, just as well backlit and with the same shortcut travel. Honestly, I would have preferred a few more millimeters of travel, but that's the gamer in me talking. ASUS also kept the giant trackpad, a must-have for work on the go. It's just as responsive and fast as before and still supports multi-touch gestures. Moreover, ASUS Dial is still present because everything needs a fancy name, meaning the touch-sensitive configurable circle controlled via another separate app called ASUS Dial and Control Panel. Yes, just like I said earlier, it could have just been a tab in the aforementioned My ASUS or ProArt Creator Hub. If you get used to the multitude of shortcuts and gestures you can assign, the dial can become your best friend. All in all, I declare myself impressed by this new iteration of the P16, a model I've liked in the past, and I'm happy to see that it's still getting full attention from ASUS. The ProArt P16 is high on my recommendation list for content creators looking for a solid and powerful device. They could have cut down on the multitude of overlapping apps when it comes to functionality, but you know how it is, nothing is perfect in this world. Alright, and to put this laptop's capabilities to the test beyond synthetic benchmarks, we've got a real work scenario at the end. We took one of our DaVinci Resolve projects and exported it from 4 different systems to see how each performed. We used the Mac Studio with M1 Ultra, the ASUS ProArt laptop with RTX 5070, my own MacBook Pro with M3 Max, and a Windows desktop with Intel Core Ultra 9 285K and RTX 5080. The software used was DaVinci Resolve Studio 20, and the files included XAVC Intra 4:2 footage shot with the Sony FX6, H265 4:2 10-bit footage shot with the FX3, and H264 clips either downloaded from the internet or shot on a phone. The timeline duration was 30 minutes and the total project size was 221 GB. Export settings in DaVinci were MP4 format, H264 codec, UHD resolution 3840 by 2860 at 60 frames per second. And here are the results. The M1 Ultra managed to export the clip in 14 minutes and 16 seconds. The ProArt with the 5070 and GPU rendering enabled did it in 21 minutes and 45 seconds. My M3 Max MacBook Pro took 23 minutes and 6 seconds, and the desktop with RTX 5080 and Intel Core Ultra 9 285K completed it in 10 minutes and 37 seconds. I'm impressed by the very good time posted by the ProArt. After all, it's a thin and elegant laptop that managed to beat my M3 Max MacBook Pro by nearly 2 minutes, likely thanks to the internal 5070. A huge contribution was certainly made by the hardware acceleration on the GPU for certain codecs, and that was clearly visible when we closely observed where the speed spikes or slowdowns occurred. Hardware support for codecs makes a difference. All platforms handled the 4K 4:2 10-bit XAVC Intra files from the FX6 well, just as well with H265, and they struggled a bit more with the H264 files. So it's a great time to be content creator. And now you tell me in the comments, what do you prefer for creative work, a laptop or a desktop? What do you think about ASUS's new ProArt? And with that said, we'll stop here. Please subscribe on Techniqualities. Thank you and wish you all the best.